Okay, I'm going to talk to you today about wormeries. Now, wormeries are just brilliant if you're growing in a small space because you can recycle all your waste food to create fantastic fertiliser for your crops. They also don't take up a lot of space and they don't smell. Now, when I started growing, I thought I had to go and buy a wormery, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just wanted to share with you that as I've learned a bit about wormeries, I've discovered that actually it's really easy to make one yourself. And there's lots of different ways you can do this, and I'm now going to show you the easiest one that I know. All you need is a plastic box, a drill, a couple of bricks, and of course some worms. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to drill some holes in the bottom of this box. The reason why we're going to do that is that worms are just like humans in that they need air to survive. So we're going to drill some holes in here to give as much air as possible, into this box. And we'll do that now. So here we go with some air holes. Quite a few in there, really. Doesn't matter where you drill them. There we go, that should do it. So what I'm doing now is just putting some bricks underneath it, and that's just to lift it up so that air can get in through the air holes under here. And if you haven't got bricks, just a piece of wood, just anything that's going to lift it up off the ground to let the air circulate. And what I'm now going to do is just add a bit of wood chip to the bottom, and that's just to sort of create a drainage layer so that water drains out nicely. You know, you don't have to do this. Last time I made one, I didn't bother, and it worked fine. It's just if you've got something you can use for a drainage layer, like some wood chip that will rot down, that might be a good idea. Just a little in there. And I'm now putting a piece of cardboard in, and that's just to help keep the worms in the box so they don't fall out of the bottom. Some people worry that worms will escape from the box, and the thing is that as long as they're happy in there, they'll stay in there. I'm just giving that cardboard a quick water to make it damp, and that's because worms like a damp environment, and that cardboard was a bit dry. And now we're ready to put the worms in. Now these worms have come from my wormery, one of my other wormeries. Now that's the best place. If you know someone who's got a wormery, that's the best place to get them from. But you can also buy them online. Look at all those worms there. You could also buy them online, or fishing tackle shops often sell them for fishermen. The sort of worms you want are the worms that you find in compost heaps. So if you know someone with a compost heap, you could get some from there as well. The ones you don't want, though, are earthworms. It's a different sort. The ones that actually live in the earth in a garden are a different sort of worm. So there they are. Now, the other thing you need, as well as the worms, is you need some sort of bedding for them to live in. And this bedding is their home. And the best bedding you can give them is worm compost, the stuff that they're already living inside a wormery. So they'll really settle very happily in here with this worm compost. Now, if you don't have worm compost, and sometimes when you buy them online they come with worm compost, that's how they're supplied. But if you don't have worm compost, you can use normal compost, or coir, which is coconut fibre. People use as well, and that works fine. And the other thing I've heard people use is shredded newspaper, although I've never personally tried that. I'm now just going to add a little bit of food. Now it's very important not to overfeed them when you start off, because what you're doing is you're basically building a population of worms, and that can take, in a mature wormery you have thousands of worms. In here I've probably put a few hundred, so I need to build up a population of worms, so I need to feed it a little bit to begin with, and I can feed it more as it establishes. And also when you start off, it's a good idea to chop up the food into small pieces. When it's really going and running at full pelt, you don't really need to worry about that so much, but they will eat it quicker when it's cut into small pieces like this. So I'm just going to sprinkle that on top, and that's just mixed vegetable peelings, carrots, cabbage, tea bags, coffee. The things you don't want to put in are things like onion, chili, citrus, anything sort of acidic, or anything very oily, or processed foods, fine in small quantities, and cooked foods are fine in small quantities, but don't add too much of anything. In fact, that's a general rule, don't add too much of any one thing. And the other thing you need, as well as bits of food, is a carbon source. By a carbon source, we mean something, either some cardboard or some paper, or some wood chip if you've got it, is also good. So I'm just going to tear that, and that will slowly work its way in the coming weeks, so I won't need to worry about that too much now. And I'm now going to add a cardboard layer, but the main function of this is just to make it nice and dark in there. Worms like darkness. In fact, they will die if they're exposed to light for prolonged periods. But it also helps to keep the moisture in there. So the last thing we need to do is put a lid on. Normally these boxes come with a lid, and it's fine to use that lid, but I've lost my lid, so I've made one out of an estate agent's sign. Apologies to Oliver's Town, or thanks to Oliver's Town, I should probably say. Now, I've tried to be clever with this. What I've done is I've cut the sign in half to fit on the box, and on one piece of the plastic I've drilled lots of holes for air in, and then I've put bits in the middle to create an air gap between the two pieces, and the top piece hasn't got any air holes at all in. So the idea is that this side is rainproof, so water can't get in, but the air can come in through this gap here and through the holes at the bottom into the box. And there we are, that's it. So there we are, one wormery all ready to go. Just to recap, they like as much air as possible, so the air holes are important. They like to live in darkness, so make sure the top is covered. And the third thing they like that I haven't mentioned is they like a constant temperature, not too hot and not too cold. So it's important that in summer you don't keep it in the sun where it could get very hot, and in winter you keep it in the warmest place you can. You might, if it's a very cold winter, you might want to wrap it up in some extra layers to keep the worms nice and snug in there. That's it. I hope you'll try one. If you do try one, I'd love to hear how you get on.